Boom, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to be here. First, let's start off with I'm not a health professional in any way, shape, or form. I'm just speculating and collecting some data. So, what we're going to go over today, first and foremost, is more of my thoughts on the coronavirus, mostly because I like to rant about this type of stuff, and I also find it very interesting. The other thing I want to point out that remember that the numbers we're about to look at, there are real life people involved here, so keep that in mind. I know I have to as a scientific mind, remember that there are faces behind any of the numbers that we look at, and those are lives and family members and everything. Anyways, with that in mind, we're going to dive in and take a look at the coronavirus one more time here with the Arcane Bear, and I'm just going to rant and riff on some of the numbers and paperwork I've been looking at. So let's dive in. Okay, so the first thing I actually want to take a look at here is a pretty simple idea. Let's just look at the rough definition of what a pandemic is. For those of you that don't know, an endemic is something that's generally in one country. Pandemic involves the entire globe, so occurring over a wide geographic area and infecting an exceptionally high proportion of the population. Again, we have not got to this affecting an exceptionally high proportion of the population yet, but the numbers don't look too positive in our favor. And just before we got cut off yesterday, we were actually taking a look at this little slide here, which was created by Peak Prosperity. I really like this. These are the same numbers we found. Again, if you want, you can actually find these specific numbers in the novel coronavirus case studies on the New England Journal of Medicine, as well as the Lancet, which does have some of the original modeling coming out. Although there are new cases that provide potentially better models, they have not been peer reviewed and created yet, so we're working off somewhat old data. But nonetheless, this is where we got cut off in yesterday's video, and these are the important parts that we want to keep an eye on, is what's known as the R0, the complications, and the fatality rate. We're actually going to assume here that from the numbers we're seeing out of China, they're probably significantly higher, which also means that those people that may or may not have had the coronavirus may have had it and just didn't know because it came off as just a mild cold and flu. So again, the fatality rate probably lowers, although the R0 number stays likely as high, and the complication rate seems to be, it would be obviously still very high, but it would lower based off the realization that there are probably many more people that maybe have had this virus and would not have known had they not visited Wuhan or been told by someone else that they had visited something in that area. So again, what I wanted to do was compare this to a few of the other viruses that are out there. Here you can see the relationship versus the swine flu, and this was only within the first few days of infected cases. Again, this was right at the very beginning, but you can see a much sharper increase in those early days, representing a much higher rate of transmission. Again, you can see it on more of a graph-based idea here. Early estimates for nCoV, which is the novel coronavirus, meaning a new coronavirus, one that we've just found, as in comparison to the ones that we had already known about. Again, the nCoV here sitting between around 2.5 and 3. Again, I think this is a low estimate compared to some of the other versions of this, of what we had seen. But again, significantly more transmissible than the seasonal influenza. And again, what we have to remember is that even though more people die from seasonal influenza at the moment, we've had that in our species bioculture for many, many years, and we've grown somewhat of a herd immunity to it. So the fact that it only affects 0.1% of the population is because we've been dealing with it for a long time, and over the course of the lifetime, we consistently get it. So a big part of the question is, if novel coronavirus's breakout does become pandemic, does it just float around? Is it affected by seasonal changes? Maybe it's not. Maybe it getting hotter doesn't change it, and it's just a wave all year round of getting sick. We don't know. We're used to seasonal influenza, so comparing it to that is very difficult. We can look at it again as some of the numbers here of the R0 values, just so we get kind of an understanding of the basically the transmissibility of this. So you have measles up here at the high end, chickenpox all up at around 10 or 12. That means that for every person you visit while you're sick, this many people also get sick. You've got, wow, look here, look at this. Rabies for dogs is at 2.44. Well, I guess this is specifically maybe Kenya data, but that's very high for getting. That means that many dogs are gonna would get you sick. So for every dog that is sick, 2.4 humans get rabies. Apparently, that's some pretty bitey dogs. But just as a comparison again with the influenza, they say at the pandemic state, which would mean this is the influenza of the 1918, what they call the Spanish flu. And again, it only got the name the Spanish flu is because Spanish people are the only ones that were really reporting the data at the time because of the World War II. Was it World War One or two? Yeah, World War One. Sorry, in 1918, 1920 area. Again, so we can see the different levels of transmissibility for things like HIV, and then malaria and SARS are the more recent ones. So probably better to look at that. SARS and H1N1, but they don't have H1N1 on here. So SARS was somewhere between 2 and 5 as well, but they were able to stomp SARS out quite quickly. Again, so here's another rendition of this. And again, what I'm trying to do here is just understand the data and basically make my own assessment, because I'm going into a proactive mode here, and I'll show you why within the next few slides here. But it doesn't look great for this being contained. It looks like we'll hit a peak of growth in China around April. When you have around 1 billion people over in China, this thing could move very quickly, and that's the general worry. We know there's asymptomatic transmission. It can be transferred through feces or any of the biomatter as well from the vomit, etc. of the patients. This is a very expansive virus in comparison with some of the other ones. So again, we're just comparing ideas here of the H7N9, which is very deadly. Look at that fatality rate at 39%. These are the ones that we were originally really worried about, but luckily we were able to stop it. I'm pretty sure it's because this wasn't very transmissible, around 1,000 people, and this is way off. We're at around 30,000 now, and in the hundreds of deaths. So we're peaking out here with some of the deaths of SARS. Again, SARS deaths show around 9.6% of the death toll. We don't really know if China's giving us the proper numbers or not. So again, my main sentiment here is, well, first off, I should make sure this is all working. My main sentiment here is I just want to kind of riff on the ideas with you guys, and I wanted to get these videos out instead of producing something really high quality that's well rehearsed. I just wanted to get this data out here, freestyle, and kind of, I'm discovering it as you guys are. I'm sure I think this should be much more covered than what we're getting from the mainstream media, because again, the numbers from the Wuhan the novel coronavirus, so we don't implicate that it's Chinese. Again, remember, this is not. This is probably likely already affected large swaths of the world, and we'll get into that as the next 2 weeks really show itself, and that's going to be a really obvious factor of what takes place. Now, again, some of the downsides here is, for those who've been watching, Zero Hedge got banned because of an article that they had posted, which is from MediRev. I actually have it open here. I can show you. But it basically goes around and it takes a look at all the amino acid buildups of the novel coronavirus from 2019, and it looks at some of the spike amino acids from that are actually look like they're coming from the HIV strain itself. So you have the GAG, the GP120, which are all, I think there's 4 of them in total. Our analysis of the spike glycoprotein. So this is basically how the virus actually seems to be keeping its very transmissible state. It can, from what I generally understand, again, I'm not a doctor or a scientist, and am at best good at digging in the dirt. All I can do is kind of put ideas together. So what I kind of grasp from here, and excuse my layman's approach to understanding this, is that these spike glycoproteins attach to the cell, and that's what helps to get the RNA, or basically the DNA of the virus, into the host cell. Take that host cell over. The RNA adds itself to the last part of I think what's called a polymerase of that DNA, and then now the RNA starts reproducing itself instead of the DNA that the cell was originally producing, thus for creating more of the virus itself. Now, the interesting part here is that the HIV proteins seem to stick specifically to one of the polymerase proteins. And again, please, for anyone that's smarter than me, and I'm sure there's a bunch of you, keep it in mind that I'm just, again, trying to put this together through what I've read from these peer-reviewed papers. I'm not an epidemiologist. I have no background in viral flu transmissions or anything like this. So I'm just trying to understand what's going on. So Zero Hedge was actually banned for sharing this content. Now, this is not a peer-reviewed paper. When we're in the midst of moving very quick like this, we don't have always peer-reviewed paper, as you can see here. This was not a peer-reviewed paper. It says it right here. So let me be very clear. We don't have more data on this breakdown. We will be getting more, especially as we see the virus come out of more reliable areas of quarantine. That's the wrong color to highlight something. It did not work. Let's see. There we go. Okay, that won't highlight either. So anyways, this little bit here was not peer reviewed. That's an important part to keep in mind on as we go through. Again, I've got another quick slide here. What I wanted to do was just reiterate the idea that China is very rarely forthcoming in their data. If you chug around on the internet the last few days, some of the images that we see coming out of there definitely lean into the idea of a pandemic. They're just setting up hospitals with no real quarantine. Let's see. I don't actually have all these open, so I don't want to riff too far and get away too much from the topics that this video could go for hours. I'm sure there's so much interesting data about this specific topic, and that's really grabbed my idea. Like you have someone that's working at the crematorium here in Hankou, which is a part of Wuhan, who says it's been operating at a 24-hour-a-day capacity with 30 cremation furnaces. We've got articles of loved ones wondering why it was solely written that the people died from strictly pneumonia, etc. So again, here, Tencent, which is a big Chinese media outlet, one day they put out on the 1st of February here, it said that there's 150,000 infected with 248,000 deaths and 269 recoveries. These numbers are actually probably, I'm going to look, unsubstantiated, total fucked speculation, out of my mind claim, is that these numbers feel like they're probably closer to the truth. And that's just the start of the disconcerting iceberg here that really starts to take place. Again, is that people, the general media is going to step up its combat to false cures and conspiracy theories. A big part of my question is, what is it that I'm doing? Because I'm just speculating and trying to understand and learn and see the data that's coming out. Look, these guys got it wrong. They updated their data. The ABC, I've seen a lot of these guys make huge mistakes before. Might as well call that a conspiracy theory. So these steps that Facebook and Google Twitter are going to be taking to stop the spread of coronavirus misinformation. Again, this is just part of the disconcerting confluence of events, starting with the fact that that's how we know China controls its mainstream data. Now, I don't want to piss anyone off here. This is not China's fault, as far as I can tell. There are some, stringy ideas that maybe this is somehow a biological weapon, and there's some evidence for that. There only be biological warfare's weapon unit out of China is in Wuhan, so maybe 20 to 30 kilometers away from the Hanan wet market where a lot of this seemed to be originating at first. But we do also know now that wasn't the case. It wasn't just the Wuhan market. We do see a viral outbreak, and we have ideas of it on December 8th, far before the Hanan market. So I just want to go over this. I thought this was kind of fun. Not fun, masks are important. I've started buying a few of these before any of this happened, just because I like them. I thought they're classy. Definitely, I'll start to leave some links. Again, the main purpose of these videos is I just wanted to get the content out there rapidly and work on more production-based videos later on. This is me just trying to gather my thoughts because it's a very broad topic and it's something I'm not well versed in. So this is kind of me practicing. Again, we saw the death to Li Wenliang, which is one of the first doctors who spoke out about these incidents. Again, I'm just kind of going back through here. I wanted to go over some topics. Scientists are also now warning you can catch the coronavirus more than once, where some of the antibodies that are normally being created here don't last that long and disappear from the body. Again, this makes it much different than the way the SARS outbreak took place in early 2000s. So one particular person may not actually be able to get over it just the first time. So same with flu. You end up getting potential small variations in the way all of these little, I guess the amino acid mutations, etc. Here is the Taiwanese news, again, talking about the Tencent data leak that we were looking at, where at one point they showed hundreds of thousands of people, and then within a few hours reverted it back to the original numbers. Here you can see down at the bottom at 154,000 confirmed cases, 24,000 deaths versus the 14,000 confirmed cases with 304 deaths. And there is some really interesting conjecture here about this particular idea. Again, the main one, let's see if I can find it. Did I leave it open? No, I didn't, obviously. Is the realization that the numbers that China is giving us. Oh yeah, here we go. I can't show you the graph, but I can show you the numbers based off of the Wu Flu live charts. What we're seeing here, this growth chart, this one here, global confirmed cases, and what's coming out of China. It's the data specifically. It is following what's known as a quadratic math equation, which is a fairly standard math equation. So the fact that we're getting within a 99th of a percent identical hit rate to just a quadratic math equation seems like they're giving us fake numbers. They're just giving us the general growth pattern of something, not anything specific. And again, that would, we tend to believe that China's not telling us the truth here. So WuFlu.live, these guys have a nice little setup. Again, Japan jumped to the top of the charts recently because of the viral outbreak that had moved to the quarantine ship. This is actually the data that I'm most interested in right now, is what we get out of Japan and that ship, because it's going to give us a really great case study of the people that were infected, the confirmed either fatality, complication, and the transmissibility rates in a closed quarters environment is going to be very useful for us in really determining, is this a pandemic? The other important part here that I wanted to point out is not necessarily getting sick from the virus itself, but the supply chain effects that I think are going to become more pertinent as time goes on. For all of you that are interested, 80% of the U.S. supply chain of antibiotics are actually made in China, and a rare high-profile public comment, one former central bank advisor actually suggested that China could curb its exports of antibiotics to the United States as a trade war retaliation tool. So again, the important thing to understand here is that as all these big cities in China go into lockdown, it doesn't just curb the supply chain on maybe, say, the vehicles that you would need to get to deliver, or not, whether it's fixing cars or boats or anything like this. A lot of the physical parts of these that are needed are locked up in these countries, but the creation of most of the antibiotics the United States needs for most of its properly running healthcare system is actually created in China. So if there are bigger lockdowns and it becomes a bigger endemic just in China alone, without becoming pandemic in the rest of the world, this could have serious consequences on the flow of goods and services between these countries for the healthcare professionals, right? We've already seen that with the masks. These masks, this is a fairly avant-garde company here. They produce just a few. They're nanocarbon fiber masks. They're brilliant. They look so cool. I actually thought these were going to become fashion statements for like a good part of the last few years. I almost stocked up and bought a few of them, not because before any of this happened, because I just think that they look kind of cool, right? So again, the point that I wanted to get across here is that if the medical care system and services are all already going to be overwhelmed and inundated to the point where these little small niche companies that make hippie masks for people like me, basically, with the flower of life on it, right? And again, this is an N95 P2 mask. This is nanocarbon fiber, removing up to 99.99% of particulates and particulate matter from the air that you breathe. And it's says specifically against coronavirus. But when you go to these stores, they're all sold out for weeks and weeks. They even have a warning at the top of that one. Oh, nice. The shop is back online. Here you go. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. You can actually order them online again if you're interested in getting cool masks. I do like this company. Again, this is not for actual healthcare advice. This is just because I love these for when I'm riding, when it's dusty. There's a bunch of different ways to basically make these applicable to one's daily life. If you're traveling, I actually am probably going to buy another one just because I like them. I wear them all the time while traveling, when in airplanes, and again when it's dusty, just in general, because I think it makes me look super cool. But the point again of this isn't so that you buy these things, is that you understand when companies like this are 2 weeks out on shipping time essentially. Oh wow, nice. This is what they have, the one in stock. The other ones are all 2 weeks out in shipping time. Nice, they're all back in stock. Okay, that's a good sign. The other day when you went to their website, they're like, we are completely sold out. Yeah, due to coronavirus stock, we have been greatly reduced. We're now taking pre-orders only with a 2-week delivery time for your order being processed. Go to our shop to select in stock and pre-orders. When I noticed that this company had sold out, that means that general healthcare professionals are probably not getting access to the things that they need. So I wanted to scroll back. This was another great conversation between Howard Bauchner and Anthony Fauci. He's one of the main leaders. But when I produce a really nice video, guys, I'm going to leave all of this content in the links below in the videos. For now, again, I'm just riffing along what I've seen. To really point things out, again, the idea that relatives in China are wondering why pneumonia deaths are not counted in the coronavirus tally. We see all these crazy videos. I don't have the Twitter page open that I saw yesterday, but it's just worrisome videos left, right, and center. So you've got the JAMA Network, the Lancet, and the New England Journal of Medicine, which are doing great papers here. Again, I don't know why these aren't loaded already. JAMA Network. So basically, the point here is we are very close, in my mind, to where this gets out of hand and becomes a much bigger deal, especially because of these awkward statistics like, okay, well, U.S. policymakers are worried about weaponizing drug exports because China creates 80% of all the antibiotics, and antibiotics are a super important tool in just running our healthcare system in general. Before antibiotics, we would die from very simple fucking things out of the blue. So I think it's important to understand the supply chain effects here and the potentials that this has in the market. Like for all of you guys that follow the Bear family regularly, which I'm sure it's most of you, we're always really interested in, okay, well, if you look at some of this, we saw some of the first days of news, the coronavirus, it's not worse than the flu. Our market jumps right back up. This to me is a representation of billions and billions of dollars of buying power coming out of the Federal Reserve. And again, it just goes to show that what's keeping these markets up is just money printing. There's very little left here. So regardless of if you're printing money or not, if you start to lock up the supply chain coming out of the world, one of the world's largest exporters for antibiotics not just in the United States, but other parts of the world as well, on a potentially over-flooded system of hospitals over the next few months. Again, this is all hypothetical. We haven't hit those numbers yet. We're really looking forward. I don't mean to say like, oh, I'm super excited to see this data about how many people are going to die or get critically ill. But the truth of the nature is, yes, in Japan here, we're going to get some really, really clear data from that. Actually, they're listing it as 61 others here on this chart here. Japan didn't want to take... That's not us. I swear that extra 61 people is not us. We want to keep our number low. Look at them down here in the Job Hopkins. We've only got 25. But on a cruise ship out here in Japan, I think is going to give us some of our best data in terms of really understanding the viral transmissibility, the complication rate, and as well as the fatality rate. So over the next 2 weeks here, I'm looking forward to that because it's going to give me a much better information base, and all the people who are significantly smarter than me, a much better information base of what's actually going on here, because I really don't think that we're getting proper data from China. Anyways, this is just, again, there's a bunch more stuff that I want to go over. This is just what I had on the plate for today. Again, what I will do is now I'll take a look at some of you guys' thoughts and questions. We'll leave the Wu flu chart up here and take a look, and then we'll just riff on things. There's probably a bunch of stuff you guys have recognized that I haven't noticed as well. So please leave your thoughts and questions down below in the comments section. I'll go to the live stream for a little bit here. So let's see what you guys are saying all the way back from the beginning. Hey, nice, awesome, great content. It's a bioweapon. Yeah, I've seen some potential information for that. Again, totally speculation at this point, and really not that important whether it's a bioweapon or not, but being proactive, I think, is an extremely important measure here, which also means just studying and understanding what's going on. Let's see, it came out of their BSL-4, yeah, the biosecurity lab level 4. That was what was in Wuhan, China. I don't want to get too much into the conspiracy theory aspect of it. I just want to go with the facts that we do have. There are definitely some potential, let's call them spikes of information that are sitting on the table that looks like it may be a bioweapon. And again, that's a very disconcerting idea. Whether it is or not isn't as important to me as the actual functioning data, understanding what's gonna come of all of this, in terms of how many people are getting critically ill, how many people are actually getting a transmissible version of virus for how long. And the New England Journal of Medicine has been fantastic for keeping notes there. I think it's one of the best ones. And it's just nejm.org/coronavirus for a lot of peer-reviewed paper that's taking place right now that really helps kind of see the story that's going on here. Yeah, Blank Bruno saying the same thing. Cruise ship docked at Yokohama should give us better data about the RO and critical case percentage. Exactly. That's one of my main focus of understanding, as well as what kind of information do we get out of China or out of Japan there. Race-specific bioweapon. It's funny you guys are finding a lot of the same information as me in terms of the conspiracy aspect of it. Again, my main focus now is that this is a noticeable something that we should take notice of, because it could become pertinent for us to understand more about it very quickly. LTC pumped, by the way. That's great. I'm glad Litecoin jumped. We've been watching that out of the falling wedge for a bunch of weeks now. Glad to see it's still going. I exited most of my position on Litecoin there at the first point. Anyways, it was already a fairly big gain. Not a huge trade, but a big gain, which is nice. Life is expensive though. Anyways, it's not like you really. It's always going to spend it on something, hopefully, right? That's the point of currency. Keep it moving. Money, different. Save it. You need a currency and a money, I think, is an important mindset there. So you guys have a bunch of great sentiments here. So as it mutates, it can be infectious to a previously infected host. This is never going to go away. That's the other sentiment is does it just keep going? You should try to get Dr. Cass Ingram on your show. He used oil of oregano during SARS outbreak. Yeah, I don't want to get too much into the speculative stuff, like about using oil of oregano, even though I know oregano is a motherfucking badass, strong. I grow a bunch of it here on the property. Let's see, a temporary lockdown of circulation of trade, thus inventory. We'll see about that. Again, a big part of it comes down to what parts of the country are locked down. We are seeing that the virus can actually be stored for around 5 days on particularly environmentally savvy areas. So shipping should probably be fine because it gets rather cold. But again, there's no indication that it's been able to do that yet. Yeah, well, I agree. Essential oils won't do anything, guys. Be very wary about thinking that these small things are going to stop. It won't stop the flu. We have seen nothing to stop the flu in the past. Just your reaction to it from your nervous system is one of the most important, and whether you fall into a cytokine storm or not is another extremely important area. Sometimes being strong and healthy works to your disadvantage depending on what type of virus reaction you get. So we're in a very, very this is an area of actually, can I go pop out data? Hold on, I haven't done a live stream in so long, guys. I'm liking that this is actually working. We had a bunch of time there where we weren't able to stream basically at all because of the internet speed, but we seem to have relatively quick internet now. So I can totally do this. I can go back to the data screen instead, like this. There we go. So don't rely on any home remedies here. Be more proactive in being healthy ahead of the curve, I think is a good one, and understand the complications that take place. Regular bacterial infections of the lungs, etc. Because it's the complications in the supply chain stuff that I'm much more worried about. I'm not actually worried about the virus, especially for my age. I think we'd be probably fine, but again, it's worried about the problems of the complications of being actually healthy, like a cytokine storm. Does your body overreact, producing all these antibiotics that basically flood your system and don't do anything, and you end up dying of a different type of pneumonia. Anyways, let's see here. What's your guys' thoughts and sentiments? Again, the main point here is I just wanted to rough sketch a few of these thoughts out early, because I do feel it is pertinent to let everyone know that I'm watching. I think everybody should be paying attention closely, because this goes, if this is an R naught of 4, it goes to the world's population within this next year. So again, those are very disconcerting first numbers coming out. So basically how R naught works is you'd go from 3 people, for every 3 people that one person got infected, go from 3 to 6 to 9, and you just keep from 6 to 12, from 12 to 24, from 24, you just basically keep doubling. I think it's called compounding, right? It's 24, 48, right? 80, 96, etc., and so on and so forth. And I think it's only by 20 cycles out that you end up in the billions of people when you have an R naught of 4. So just under 3, it's within 5. I think it's around 5 to 10 days incubation time. That means you're looking at 20 cycles of 5 or 10. So it's around around 280. We'll round up to, because I think it's around 3.3 something. It's around 280 days of cycle time before you would see 20 events. So if it is an R 3.0, they don't contain it. Within 280 days, you should see almost global infection numbers, and that's disconcerting. The fact that they're saying this is anything like the flu is just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because mathematically speaking, it's not. If we can contain it, and we, just like we did with some of the other outbreaks that were more transmissible and had higher death rates, etc., it's really about, can it be contained? And at this particular moment, it doesn't look like it's being contained. So I just want to, I mostly wanted to make these videos just to let everyone know that I'm paying attention. And I think everyone else should be paying attention too, because it could move very, very quickly. People saw videos of being forcibly removed from their homes. Yeah, I saw some of this as well, into quarantine camps. But again, we can't have nothing to verify those videos. Let's see. I'm going to confirm we have stuffed products and spread the virus. We do know that it can stay on surfaces for a few days, but most shipping decks from point A to point B take weeks. We haven't seen many conditions that actually support the idea that if it was shipped via a shipping container, that it would get to another part of the world quickly. But that doesn't mean that it can't be done in the short space of, say, China to Taipei delivery or something like this, because it still might fit that. Again, that's highly dependent upon the temperature and the oxygen levels of the space that the virus may have attached itself to. So it's a much harder way to tell, but I don't think it would ship overseas very easily. Just a general good health is probably your main sentiment here. Because there may be, again, if this goes to a global pandemic, you may need to self-quarantine. And again, we may not have a way to deal with this. So just, you might eventually get infected anyways, who knows? So being prepared for that, I think, mentally is super important. Again, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will know. We don't know right now. We're speculating, right? We don't have the data right now. We're going to get that data as time moves forward. But before time gets to a place where it's like pertinent, I figured now I would tell everyone, hey, I'm a little worried. let's see. I'm going to skip over a bunch of the thoughts here. Has anybody seen anything mutate before? Actually, yeah, we see the flu virus mutate every year. That's why you keep getting it. Someone says their girlfriend. Oh, she used to be nice. Now she's not. Mike sounds solid like a pro radio show. Oh, good. I'm really glad. Thanks, guys. I decided to set up the mic stand. I've been actually working with the microphone like this as I had done my last setups. And it's not a bad sound, right? But when you get super close like that and you put the headphones on so you can hear the level of volume that you're using, and because when you're close to the mic like this, you've got to be a little softer, which is generally why they wear headphones on the podcast, is so you can actually hear what your voice sounds like on the mic. It's actually anyways. So I appreciate the compliment there on the mic sound. I did go out of my way to make sure the mic was actually plugged in and on a stand today, just for you guys specifically. So Mark is saying the flu actually killed more healthy people. Again, that's actually from the cytokine storm, which is basically a healthy immune system overreacting. I don't think I have it here. You can find it pretty easily by going cytokine storms. And you can do your research. Deadly immune storm caused by emergent flu infection. Scientists have mapped key elements of a severe immune overreaction known as a cytokine storm that can both sicken and kill patients who are infected with certain strains of flu virus. A cytokine storm is an overproduction of immune cells and are activating compound cytokines, which in flu infections is often associated with a surge of activated immune cells into the lungs, and thus the resulting lung inflammation and fluid buildup can lead to respiratory distress, and can be contaminated by a second bacterial infection and bacterial pneumonia. Again, it's that secondary infection where people are often dying suddenly from the tests that we have, and often dying as a younger patient. So this is important. You can read How to Calm the Cytokine Storm. Again, when you're looking, this little understood phenomenon is thought to occur at least in several types of infections and autoimmune conditions, but it appears to be particularly relevant in outbreaks and new flu variants. Cytokine storms is now seen as a likely major cause of mortality in the 1980s to 20 Spanish flu, which killed more than 50 million people, probably way more than that, and the H1N1 bird flu, H5N1 swine and bird flu of recent years. The patients most likely to die were actually relatively young adults with apparently strong immunoreactions to the infection, whereas ordinary seasonal flu epidemics disproportionately affect the very young and elderly. This is not what we're necessarily seeing. So the cytokine response is an overwhelming reaction to the new infection because your body's never seen it before. It's like, oh shit, it gets super scared, sends out a bunch of antibodies, and then from there, your body is basically in a reactionary state. So again, the important part about understanding there is that it does seem to be killing some more of the youth because of this, and there are ways to actually to combat the idea as well. I haven't looked into all the ways you can do that. Sorry, I had a message come through. But understanding, the deaths that are occurring, I think is important because we are seeing this cytokine response, which was very similar to what we think happened with the Spanish flu as well. So great point there. Virus are not as described as the effects of the virus are obviously real, but the catalyst itself has never been seen. I'm not sure about that. I feel very confident that we've seen that before, the reaction of the RNA and the DNA. Are you still in Bali? No, I'm back at the Bear Cave in Costa Rica, as you can tell from all the fun art behind me. I'm back at home working. R0 of goes to 4, 1, 4. Oh, sorry, it's powers of 4. Blank Bruno saying, oh yeah, okay. So yeah, here you go. So it would be a cycle of 4. Okay, that makes sense. So for every 4 people times 4 more people. Yeah, thank you for pointing that. So to be clear, the R naught would go 4 times 4, right, is 16. So 16 times 4 equals 64 times 4, right, 256 times. So you can see, I'll show you how very quickly this gets, this compounds into a huge number. So we're only 5 cycles out now, 6 cycles, 7 cycles, Yeah, and then there you go. We've gone into the billions of, I think the billions of people. Is that the, yeah? You go into the billions of people. It was 256,000 basically times 4. Yeah, and then there's a million times 4 again. So now we're 9 cycles out. Yeah, 10, and then this would be 10, I believe. Yeah, something like that. That's about 10, 262 million people. So this would be the infection rates with I think average lag time is, let's say, 10 days. That's 10 cycles. So in around 100 days, the speculative infection rate would be at around 262 million, if these R0 numbers are correct. So yeah, they're very, very important numbers to pay attention to. Thank you for correcting my understanding on that one, Blank. I appreciate it. Oh, wow, C3. It's good to see you here again. Oh, wow. So, I like, thank you, C3. It's good to see you again. I really appreciate seeing you here. I was actually wondering about you because you were in China. C3 is mentioning that he's actually in Chengdu, and it's bad. He's saying it's very bad. It's going to kill a lot of people. Think 20 to 30%, not 2%. Yeah, and this could also be from the complications factor and the overwhelmed hospitals that you see such a high rate. Yeah, staggering numbers, C3. I hope you're well, brother. Keep us informed. Write us an email if anything crazy happens. We'll go side route. I have Proton Mail too. If you need, just let me know. I'll send you my Proton Mail email address. Actually, it may even just be arcanebarrett at protonmail.com. I'm pretty fucking simple. Okay. Okay, let's take a look. Would you take a vaccine if they magically created one? So here's an interesting side topic. Some of the early what they're seeing as an effective fight against it is actually HIV drugs that we already have, and then remdesivir is one of them. Is an antiviral drug that's been noting a novel nucleotide analog prodrug. It was developed by Gilead Sciences as a treatment for Ebola virus. They've actually seen it work in vitro. I think that's how you say it, which is not in a human cell yet. They've worked against the coronavirus, so they're trying it out. And again, is whether they could produce it fast enough or not to get it to everyone is a different constellation. But this drug has actually already been around for a while. Remdesivir, it has shown in vitro effects with monkeys, I believe. Anyways, you can check out in remdesivir. But there's also ideas that have been, you could take an HIV drug and have it work as well, and that was coming from the idea that the polymerase that was connected to it was actually connecting to the HIV portion of the coronavirus that we see, and was one of the reasons why it was able to stop its infectivity as far as we could tell. Again, we don't have peer-reviewed data on that. We just don't have enough time to really get those articles out yet, to go through clinical trials, to go through in vitro, in vivo. I think there's 2 of them. I know there's 2 of them. I think it's in vitro and in vivo. Someone will correct me, I'm sure. Again, not my path of study or field of study at all. I'm just going off what I've learned so far. So yeah, this is a pretty big deal to keep an eye on. Whether or not I would take a vaccine. I haven't taken vaccines in a long time. I wouldn't be concerned about a vaccine so much. I think if I were to get sick, I'd probably be fine, mostly because I've gotten some really heavy flus before from all the traveling, and my body's dealt with enough of them, I think, that I wouldn't get an overreaction. Cytokine responses often happen in people that have never really hit a heavy hard virus before, at least from the data that I've read. So the more times you've gotten sick, the better, kind of idea. Because it's like if all of a sudden you had you get used to getting hit a bunch, right? So now when you get hit, you don't overreact. So yeah, it's important to understand the results of how some of this stuff works. I probably wouldn't need to take a vaccine, but yeah, this is no joke. This is a big deal. Is the origin still blamed on the market? Yeah, it doesn't seem the case though. C3 says, please pray for us. C3 is sending you all of our love, brother. I hope things go better. He says so many people are dying. Well, damn. Yeah. Send me a proton mail. I think it's arcanebear at protonmail.com. Shortness of breath, lack of CO2 tanks, and then they die. Man, I'm really sorry to hear that, C3, because we know you're in the area. Let's see. Dude, C3 says, dude, we're struggling here. I'm locked down in my apartment and quarantined in my development. This is impacting everyone. Water, food, also difficult to find. Man, I'm really sorry. I actually was chatting with a girlfriend of mine she's from Singapore, and she said yesterday, before they had turned it to code orange, she went shopping stores were full, and yesterday evening she went to actually do her real shopping. She's just grabbing lunch or something, and that they were sold out, that the grocery stores were sold out in Singapore. So yeah, this has real consequences for the people that are living in these areas. So C3, all of the Bear family's hearts go out to you guys. Hopefully you stay well, and keep us updated if you can. I mean, I wonder, you're always welcome to share a video with us. We'll try to sideline it through some other content data if you think it's important, but we'll believe you. Yeah. Anyways, so I don't want to go riff off too far. Other than again sending our hearts out to C3 and all the families that are dealing with this right now, and people quarantined on the cruise ships to the people quarantined in their towns. I can't imagine. So again, even though, I'm always interested in learning more about this stuff, it's just good to remember that everyone's lives are involved here. So not to be too over conspiratorial about what's actually taking place here. So thank you guys for joining us today. I'll take a few more of your thoughts and questions here. Let me see how long we've been running. Yeah, 46 minutes. My goal here is also just to kick back up the YouTube watch time, because I know YouTube wasn't very happy with me for not posting for a month. So getting back into it, kind of riffing with you guys more frequently is, I think, an important way to go. Just jack those numbers back up, but to also get used to ranting and raving again, and chatting with you guys, making sure everything is going smoothly, because this is going to be this could be a very, very important thing to keep our eyes on a frequent occasion here. So I'm just trying to find the chat channel. There it is. Okay, back here. Yeah, stock up on supplies. I'm going to do that this week for sure. Yeah, I'm not out of fear, but mostly out of, okay, well, look, grabbing yourself some doxycycline, which is an antibiotic that's good for potential bacterial infections. From what Cliff High said and a few other research papers I've looked at, there are a few ways to fight the cytokine storms, which is an important thing to pay attention to. I myself am trying to figure out, and as a doctor I don't know this, if I can use the coca that I grow here, because I know it oxygenates the blood cells for, I'm like, oh, that's a great question. Like, I bet you there's some doctor that knows this better than I do. Can you use coca plant for pneumonia? Because the pulmonary effects of cocaine use. Oh no, I just want to know if you could use the coca plant, if it would make a difference. So the coca plant, this is all about, can it cause pneumonia? Probably. Smoking crack can probably cause pneumonia. I said the coca plant. I want to know about the plant, not the hard drug. Anyways, they often use the coca plant when hiking because it helps oxygenate the bloodstream. So you can take the coca to increase the oxygen that's getting into your blood. So if you're having troubles breathing, I was curious I wonder if you could actually take the coca plant as a way to help sidestep. C3 says, Bear, this is bad. I'll send you an email tomorrow. It's 2 a.m. where I am right now. This is not a conspiracy. Hospitals are choked with dead. Oh, wow. Damn. That's, I'm sorry to hear that. So I've chatted with C3 a bunch over the years. He's a huge big Bear family member. Again, I can't give you enough praise for your support of the channel, C3. My heart goes out to you. I can't imagine, and I trust what you're saying right now. So yeah, it doesn't look like we're getting proper numbers out of China. This is worrisome. And when you have someone on the ground saying, "Hey guys, this is worrisome," I want to lean into that aspect as well. Could you please share that website? So there's a few here. I'll show you guys. So I'm gonna post all these in the next videos. But you've got wuflu.live, wuflu.live. This goes over a bunch of the broad statistics. I think this is a nice, well put together site. You have your live update here. You also have the Health Map, which is a collaboration between Harvard, Boston Children's Medical, Northeastern University, which is just healthmap.org/NCOV 2019. And then again, you can. Well, they should animate the spread. You can actually just leave that playing in the background while I rant. But you can essentially watch what's been happening since January 21st here. Again, the other one that I have open is the Johns Hopkins University screen, which records all of the data as well, which shows all the different countries, which is this one here. This one is gisindata.maps@argus.com. I will post this in, you can find this, I'm pretty sure, but this is just such a long URL. Okay, I'll post a tiny URL. Okay, enter a long URL, there we go, make it tiny. Copy to clipboard, live dashboard. Okay. Johns Hopkins University maps. Okay, there you go. It should show up there in the room now. Hopefully that helps. Yeah, let's take a look at more of your guys' thoughts and questions here. C3 says, no, you were definitely not getting proper numbers out of China. Okay. Thank you. Sleep well, C3. Sending you all of our best. Eat right, exercise. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I pretty much covered all of my rough thoughts so far. So that helps me really put together the video that I wanted to do. And again, this has just been an hour of ranting because I just wanted to go over and really try to, again, just rough sketch what it is I'm feeling and thinking. Because when you just, when you just rush into things, I don't really want to sit down and write it. So I figured this was like my sketch pad and was a live stream with you guys. So thank you all for joining us today. Remember to tell everyone that you love them, because you never know when shit's going to change. Can't see them again. Who knows? Be kind, compassionate. Remember to stock up on vitamins and your first aid kits. Like, I don't know. I do. I live in the middle of the jungle, though. I'm used to that kind of stuff. You need your own shit to take care of. So it's a different story. And we're going to sign off from there. Leave all your thoughts, your questions, your comments in the section below. Remember, none of this is medical or health advice. I am not a professional at anything to do with health or wellness. I'm just like researching. I think that it's better when everybody kind of weighs into the general dialogue instead of having just a few select media outlets. And I know YouTube has been really promoting ABC and Fox News, and I figured the best way to stay informed with our general friends and family is by producing videos like this. So yeah, it doesn't look good, but I'm not worried, not concerned, but being proactive, I think, is the next step and measure that I'm going to take here. This is Tiho with the Arcane Bear. Again, thank you, C3. I know he signed off already. I'm going to look for that email. We can stay in contact. Maybe you can even help us with some other data that we can't find as easy because I don't speak Chinese. I don't have access. I mean, I've got WeChat, but I just don't have access to it. Generally, what I've been doing is floating around on the internet in the evening time, kind of just puttering around, looking for content that fits in this Wuhan virus. Look, it's actually been fairly controlled, but here every now and then you can dive in and see little screen shots, snippets of videos that have made it onto onto Twitter before getting deleted. And I think that's important. So follow us on Twitter too. We do share the information here, like 80% of the U.S. supply chain of antibiotics are made in China. I think is a very important data stream to focus on as well. Anyways, I'm signing off for the rest of the day. Thank you guys. I really appreciate the support. Again, this is I think it's an important time to be aware of what's going on. That way, if it does show up, you're not surprised by what's taking place. So this is T with the Arcane Bear. We're going to sign off for the rest day. We'll see you on the other side.